Today, we're going to dive deep into the really complex and, let's be honest, often painful world of narcissistic relationships. We're going to shed some light on the patterns, the subtle ones and the not so subtle ones, that define these dynamics and hopefully bring some clarity to what can feel like a very confusing and lonely experience. Let's start with this metaphor, because, wow, it really nails the core of this whole dynamic. This isn't about partnership, it's about consumption. It's about one person working, creating, building, while the other one just shows up at the end to take all the rewards for themselves. Keep that image in your head as we go through this. And that idea, it leads us straight into our first big theme. The relationship is fundamentally unequal. Yeah, on the surface, it might look like a team, like a partnership. But once you start to peel back the layers, you see the whole thing is completely one-sided. I mean, just look at the difference here. A healthy relationship is a journey you take together, right? You have shared goals. But a narcissistic partnership, that's more like a dictatorship. Big decisions about your life, your career, your future, they're made for you, without you. It's not a partnership at all. It's just a vehicle for what they want, and your work is the fuel. So how do they keep that control? Well, one of the main tools in their toolbox is communication. For a narcissist, words aren't just for, talking. They're strategic weapons, and they are used for manipulation and control. This is such a crucial question to ask yourself. Seriously, think about it. When you look back at conversations, do you find a hidden agenda or a subtle dig in almost everything they say? That constant feeling of having to be on guard, it's absolutely exhausting, isn't it? And that's by design. And here's why. Their language is calculated. There are no off-the-cuff remarks, no casual comments. Every single word is picked for a specific reason, and if you're not paying super close attention, you are going to miss the real, often malicious meaning that's hidden just under the surface. So yeah, the words might sound totally innocent, but the intent behind them is malicious. Nothing is spontaneous. It always has a purpose. And that's exactly why conversations can feel like you're playing chess, requiring all of your attention just to figure out what's actually being said. Living in that constant state of high alert, doing all that emotional labor, it takes a profound toll. So this next section is all about that internal impact, the slow, steady erosion of who you are, of your confidence, and just your energy. Do any of these sound familiar? You find yourself apologizing all the time for the smallest things because you've been trained to think you're the cause of every problem. Your own personal growth just stops. You might even go backwards, and you put off your own important tasks because, honestly, you're just completely and utterly drained. This is such a specific and just devastating example of that energy drain. You could spend years working so hard on a degree or a business or some creative project, and then suddenly you just stop, right at the finish line. It's not because you lost interest. It's because the constant disruption has sabotaged your ability to see things through for yourself. This chart really puts it all into perspective, doesn't it? Just look at where your energy is going. The huge majority of it, 60%, is spent just managing their moods, trying to predict their reactions, and worrying about the next conflict. So what's left for your own goals, for your own dreams? A tiny little sliver. Your life's resources are literally being siphoned off. So how exactly do they do it? How do they maintain this level of control? Well, it's done through very specific and often very subtle tactics that are all designed to keep you off balance and keep you compliant. It all starts with this. They have what you could almost call hypersensitive antennae. They are constantly scanning you, watching for the tiniest hint of rejection. A certain look, the tone of your voice, a facial expression, anything can trigger their deep-seated rejection wound, and they will use that trigger to justify whatever they do next. And what they do next often follows a pretty strategic pattern. I mean, look at this. Disrupting your sleep to make you more vulnerable. Changing up the pace of the abuse so you can never, ever get your footing. And then, and this is a big one, justifying all of it not as abuse, but as a necessary correction of your behavior. It's a deliberate process meant to break you down. And that point about the varied pace is so important. The inconsistency is the point. See, if the abuse were constant, you might adapt, or you might leave. But by making it unpredictable, sometimes daily, sometimes weekly, sometimes monthly, they keep you in a state of confusion and hope, which, of course, makes you so much easier to control. And finally, we get to one of the most baffling, most maddening parts of this entire dynamic, being forced to play along with their delusion that they are some kind of intellectual giant. There's actually a term for this. It's called compound ignorance. And it basically means they're ignorant of their own ignorance. They genuinely believe they know a massive amount, when in reality they're profoundly uninformed. You're dealing with somebody who doesn't know what they don't know, but is 100% convinced they're a genius.
And this is the impossible task they give you. You have to act as if they are one of the great scholars of our time. You have to show respect, you have to defer to their profound ignorance, and validate their delusion day in and day out. That takes an unbelievable amount of emotional energy, and it forces you to suspend your own sense of reality.
And that brings us to our final question. Because participating in a charade like that, it doesn't just drain your energy, it actually changes you. When you're forced to betray your own intelligence, your own perception of reality, just to calm down someone else's delusion, what part of yourself do you lose in that process? That's a powerful thought to end on.